What's going on, guys? Andrew of New Bark Gaming back here, and today we're going to be talking something about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains episode 95 cast list. Now, for a quick review, let's go over the episode title and summary again one more time. So the title's going to be The Phoenix's Radiance, and the summary reads as follows. Bowman boasts that he has obtained a power that transcends human intellect itself and allows him to manipulate luck. Empowered by their bonds, Soulburner and Flame drive Bowman into a corner with their Salamandrate monsters. However, something abnormal then happens to Flame. Then our cast list is going to be Playmaker, I, Soulburner, Flame, Kusanagi, Revolver, Faust, Dr. Genome, Bowman, Windy, and then, of course, our extras. So in terms of the people we have appearing on this cast list, obviously Playmaker's probably waking up from his unconscious state and then starting to speak, making a little subtle commentary on the duel. Likely a relatively similar situation for Revolver. We know Revolver is essentially gearing up to face Lightning in a duel starting next episode, although Lightning does not yet appear in this cast list, so I don't think this is one of those cases where the duel starts at the tail end of an episode and then really gets into rhythm with things in the next episode. Likely just Revolver doing something probably similar to Playmaker, where he's making some light commentary on the duel, maybe working with the Knights a little bit to obtain that thing that he's supposedly going to be guilting Lightning with because he discovers some sin Lightning committed or something like that based off the summaries we got for episode 96 and the titles we know for episode 97. Now, proceeding forth with that, then we've also got Soulburner. He's going to be in the duel. Same deal with Flame. Kusanagi, most likely just narrating the end of our episode. After all, he appeared in the cast list for episode 94, and he's continued to do the narration since his death. Being a voice actor, in order to appear in the cast list, you just have to have a speaking line. So that would make the most sense to me. I certainly hope they aren't making some sudden and dramatic comeback for Kusanagi, because he only died 2 episodes ago. And so far, at least in my opinion, his death was the most impactful and had the most weight behind it of any death in Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains thus far by a long shot. So pressing right forward, we also have Faust and Dr. Genome. What's kind of curious to me about this is the fact that our Knights of Hanoi have usually kind of come in groups of 3 in terms of appearing in the show. Usually we've got Vyra along with Faust and Genome. Likely what it is, though, is Vyra may just not have a speaking line in this episode. After all, even though they've had relatively minimalistic roles in Season 2, so far, Vyra has had more speaking lines than the other 2, so maybe the writers are just trying to give the other 2 their chance at having a couple lines of dialogue in an episode or something like that. Or perhaps Vyra then goes off to do some side mission for Revolver or something like that. We'll have to wait and see. I doubt it's anything super crazy going on there. Then, of course, we have Bowman participating in the duel, and the most interesting name on this cast list to me is Windy. Now, the easiest solution to why Windy's in this episode is, he appears in some sort of a flashback. After all, both characters participating in the duel that this episode is focused around have significant experiences with Windy. Starting with Bowman, of course, Windy was an ally to Bowman. The main duelists on Bowman's side were Lightning, Windy, and himself. Then flipping to Soulburner and Flame's side, this is where things get very interesting. Windy is the one instance we've seen within the show where an Ignis's data was absorbed into that of another Ignis not named Bowman. We have to remember at the end of Soulburner and Flame's duel, Flame actually absorbs Windy's data as Windy's gradually falling apart as a result of losing. Windy also goes on to curse Flame and Soulburner, striking me as the fact that Windy's going to do everything within his power to come back in a spiteful manner against these two. Tie that in with the fact that we know based on the summary something abnormal is going to happen with Flame, Windy's data exists within Flame, and Bowman's been essentially flexing his influence over Mirror Link Vrains in these past couple episodes to the point where he's trying to prove that he can literally manipulate luck within it. I wouldn't say it's by any means totally crazy to suggest the fact that maybe somehow Windy takes over Flame's body and starts controlling him or something along those lines, because once more, Windy's data is all present within Flame. So think of it sort of something along the lines of when Merrick controlled strings in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters from the Millennium Rod. Maybe Bowman's able to awaken Windy from within Flame and allow him to take over Flame, thus sabotaging Soulburner and Flame's dueling. After all, based off the way this summary reads, it sounds like Soulburner and Flame are actually pretty much in a winning position against Bowman throughout the majority of this episode. We have to really note the fact that it says that they push Bowman into a corner, not in episode 94, but episode 95, which is the second episode of this duel. So it sounds like Bowman's got to do something to turn this around. Reawakening Windy and sabotaging the teamwork between Soulburner and Flame is one way to certainly do it. Now, that seems a little out of character to Bowman, for me, but at the same time, Windy could be doing this on his own as well. Once more, there's nothing necessarily distinguishing the power of the various Ignises from one another. They aren't like Bowman, where they were custom designed to be able to absorb one another and be quote-unquote the next step in evolution the way Lightning created Bowman to be. They were created as these independent thinking AIs, more or less all at the same time based off different humans, and much like each human, we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. For all we know, Windy's may be able to override Flame if it's a battle of wills or something like that and it's set up in the right circumstance. So I think this is a very interesting opportunity to watch the plot take a very interesting twist, and I doubt the writers unintentionally made it so that Windy was the only Ignis existing within another standard Ignis right now. Now, continuing with some crazy speculation, we also have to bear in mind that when Windy was being absorbed, Flame was giving him a speech that more or less resembles a lot of the speeches given to antagonists in Yu-Gi-Oh! Shortly before they're redeemed. He was talking a lot about the fact that Windy keeps losing as a result of him basically just dueling for himself. So if that's the case, maybe Windy, having existed within Flame but not really being able to go anywhere, has had some time to be able to reflect on this. Maybe Flame faces a position where he's not able to deal with the emotional circumstance of the current duel, or Bowman's doing something crazy and making it really hard for Flame to do what he needs to, or as a result of Bowman doing all of his manipulation of Vrains and the Ignis' heavy tide of Vrains, Flame is more or less really struggling here, and maybe Windy's been redeemed and now goes on to help Flame and Soulburner try and win this duel. I don't see that being the more likely of the two scenarios I've proposed here, primarily because I think it would be a little bit out of character for Windy, given how spiteful he was up to the point of him literally being absorbed into Flame, but it's still a possibility nonetheless. And of course, the easiest explanation as to why Windy's appearing in the cast list is still, of course, that he appears in some sort of flashback, but just trying to consider all ideas that come into my mind here. Now, that being said, guys, I do think we have a very good episode to look forward to, and I think it's interesting the way that they're proposing this summary, because it opens the door just a little bit more in my mind to the possibility that maybe Soulburner is able to pull this out, or at the very least, if he doesn't win the duel, something very interesting could happen. Now, in terms of him losing the Phoenix's Radiance, I still keep thinking of the whole from the ashes rises a Phoenix. Well, then a Phoenix eventually has to go back to ashes, right? So if Soulburner's on the Phoenix side of things, then ashes are the next step in that sort of cycle. But maybe I'm just kind of overthinking the episode title, and that wasn't necessarily a reference they're going for. So with all that being said, guys, be sure to let me know your thoughts, comments, theories, etc. in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. If not, constructive criticism is always welcome, and I'll catch you guys next time with some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains content.